YouTubers, and welcome to another Doctor Who Classic Series action figure review. Today I'm looking at the latest Classic Series release from Underground Toys and Forbidden Planet, which is the Time Warrior collector set featuring Lynx, the Doctor, and a Sontaran scout ship, again. I'll begin by saying this is a great set. I definitely prefer it to the Sontaran Experiment set, and I shall go into reasons why in a second, but it is a fantastic set of figures. I mean, the figures themselves are great, and, you know, this is an interesting accessory, but, you know, it's a very, very good set. So I'll begin first by looking at the Sontaran scout ship, just because there's not really much else to say that wasn't said in the previous version. As you can see, new weathering effect on this Sontaran spaceship. Again, it's rotocast, so, you know, nothing new there. It's exactly the same sculpt. More weathering on the top, very dirty and muddy there, and it sort of comes down in strips, so you'll have like a bit of clean and a big strip of brown, which I'm not so sure that I like that, because it looks obviously manufactured weathered, if you know what I mean. It's a bit more splodgy down the bottom as well, and obviously the thrusters and everything are still very cool. If we open it up, it still looks like a Portaloo, and the green door business, that's now gone. It is the correct sort of maroony colour, like it is in the Time Warrior. However, the door is on the incorrect side. The door should be on this side. To be totally honest with you guys, I wasn't expecting them to swap it round, because it would have just been an entirely new sculpt in order to do that. It would have just been so much money to do it. So, you know, they had to go with the cheaper option. Obviously, some people aren't going to like that. Normally I wouldn't, but I can see the reasons behind it. And of course, this whole thing in the middle, it still doesn't really work, to be honest. It's a clever idea, and looking at it from this angle on the camera, you kind of get a sense of depth, but you don't really get a sense of what the hell is meant to be going on in that spaceship. I mean, how do you fly it? There's no detailing on the console thing. I would have much rather them have like a sticker from a screen grab. I mean, there's a special feature on the DVD, an Easter egg, which shows the interior and has all been CGI'd. Surely they could have just screen grabbed that and stuck it in rather than all this stuff. So that's that. And of course, finally, you've still got that irritating number written down the bottom, but it's not so apparent because of the darkness of the door, and you still have all that stuff there. So, yeah, I mean, you don't really necessarily want... I don't think most people would buy this for this anyhow. So now, let's have a little look at Lynx. Aha! Commander Linx, or fans of the Target novelizations will know him as Django Lynx. So, the figure of Lynx uses the exact same body, the same buck, as Styre, although it does have some revisions to the body. As you can see, Styre is a lot taller for some unknown reason. They are the same actor, they should be the same height. It's a brilliant figure. Personally, I've always preferred the makeup on Lynx compared to Styre. That is a general fan thing anyway. Most fans will argue Lynx had the best Sontaran makeup. He was the first Sontaran. He had the best makeup, and then after that, it all went downhill. Which is true. They all went sort of crap. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but that's what happened. To have a figure of Lynx is fantastic, and the figure... I mean, this figure of Styre is brilliant, but the figure of Lynx is also very, very good. So, if I just move Lynx helmet out of the way, the body, as I said, is exactly the same. The only difference, the only few differences being that rather than these sort of armoured plated boots here, Lynx just wears normal boots. And I think that attributes to why he's a bit shorter, because the legs are slightly shorter than on the other figure. The other difference is here, on the leg. It's a new thigh piece. It has this little holster here, and you can take Lynx's wand weapon, and then that just slots in. Well, it should do, at least. I mean, I might get it to... It's a bit temperamental. There we go. So that just fits in like so. So that's a nice extra thing there. And the only other difference, sculpt-wise, apart from the head, of course, and the helmet, is the neck piece here, which now has an extra bit of thing here, like a piping, and of course the probic vent is now different as well. So the articulation is exactly the same as on Steyr. Head, shoulders, elbows, bit at the waist, thighs, knees, hands, you know, the wrists, etc. But the detailing is obviously what you're more interested in. So let's just take a look at Lynx. Now, unfortunately, my Lynx does have a bit of paint rub on the end of his nose. I shall hopefully sort that out soon. But the sculpt is fabulous. It looks just like him. It's an excellent sculpt. I mean, you probably can tell that I'm very enthusiastic about this figure because Lynx is brilliant. So, you know, he just looks really good. They even have the tongue sticking out down there. It's just a fabulous sculpt. They've been very, very good with attention to detail here because they've added all the extra hairs and things, because this particular Sontaran had quite a bit here and there. So he's got a bit around the back of the ears, in the ears, on the cheekbones. Whoops. Whoa! Sorry, Lynx. Eyebrows, he's got his little beard, which is fantastic. The only problem is that depending on the figure you manage to get, the paint applications for this aren't always great, particularly on the beard and the eyebrows. Now, looking at my Lynx, I was very lucky with the one that I got, because his eyebrows are, you can't really tell that they're there that much. They sort of very lightly painted and fade in well with the skin. I've seen some that look ridiculous. I mean, he's got really thick, some of them have really thick eyebrows, kind of like me, and it just looks mad. But I was very lucky. I got quite a lightly brushed eyebrow application. The beard, they did go a bit mad with mine. There's a bit down here, you can't tell much on the camera, that shouldn't actually be painted because it's just his skin. I might touch that up myself just to, you know, tidy it slightly. But I think part of the problem isn't just that they've added a lot of paint to some of these figures, is that sometimes the grey looks really light. And of course, because he's got very dark brown skin, it shows up quite a lot. So I think that's probably part of the problem. And again, some grey paint sort of splodged here around the back, which, you know, can't really be helped. It was going to happen. I did actually have a bit on the top of his head, but I was able to sort of scratch that off with my finger, so that was okay. Fabulous detail in the mask, like the veins and like the creases in the skin. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, character option, well, Designworks Windsor sculptors, you have done a stand-up job. Absolutely brilliant. Can't fault them for this. The little computery thing, the translator device, is different from Steyr. If I just bring Steyr into shot, you can see it's painted as it was in that story. Elbow pads and things are now silver and stuff. I'll just very quickly show you the helmet. This is also brilliantly detailed due to the fact, I mean, look at that. They've got the detailing on the mesh over the eyes. They even have all the little air holes that create his little insignia on his helmet, which is fantastic. They've also, on this version at least, added sort of a weird gap inside. You can't really see it on camera. I think that's to stop the paint rub on his nose, but mine had paint rub on his nose anyhow, so that was a pointless exercise. And then the helmet is a bit of a bugger to get on his head, but he looks cool. I mean, he looks like he's just stepped out of 1973, and he looks fantastic. He looks so cool. And he's got his little gun here, his little wand. Mine has a very odd thing going on because the end is part copper and partly painted white. So I don't know if it's meant to be entirely copper or they've painted half of it white and the other half sort of escaped paint application. I'm not sure. So if anyone does have one and it does have a white tip, please let me know, because then I can go and paint it. And Lynx just looks absolutely fabulous. He looks great. Another thing is they've given him his ungloved hands, so I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up releasing him singularly at some point with gloves hand on, but, you know, I wouldn't mind, because the more Sontarans, the better. And he looks really cool. He looks fantastic. My only thing I would have loved him to come with would have been the flag. The flag for the Sontaran army claiming the planet Earth. Would have been great. Unfortunately it doesn't, but it would have been a nice little addition. And just to show you Commander Linx with his Field Major equivalent, there you have the two classic Sontarans, and two of the sort of fan favourites. Lynx looks great because I love the silver. The silver really highlights a lot, looks a lot nicer. There's a lot more going on, if you know what I mean. It doesn't look as bland. But Star is great, and I do look forward to using these. Hopefully they'll release some more Sontarans in coming releases. This is what Sontarans are meant to look like. This is not a proper Sontaran. So, you know, I mean, you actually, it just looks ridiculous in comparison. You have something that looks like a proper warrior, ready for war, and then you have him. An extremely short Sontaran, you know, taking the height business a little literally there, aren't you? And, you know, it is mad. So, if the Sontarans ever came back, they need to make them look like this, because, you know, they're good. And finally, here's the Pertwee, the Third Doctor himself. It's the same sculpt as used on all the Jon Pertwee figures. It's basically the Green Death figure. However, this figure's good because the actual sculpt of the jacket matches the jacket on screen. So that is what the sculpt was for. The sculpt that was used on all the other Jon Pertwee figures was meant for the Carnival of Monsters figure, but of course this jacket in the Carnival of Monsters is used in this story. He has a white shirt, which looks very nice with the green. It stands out very nicely, looks rather dapper. He's got his bow tie, which is painted a very dark blue. Kind of looks a bit black on here, actually, but it is a dark blue. So it's all the same articulation, and of course the face is very good, you know, as usual. He does suffer from Jon Pertwee action figure syndrome in the point that his head doesn't really want to turn. Now, practically all of my Jon Pertwee figures have had practically immovable heads, so they do end up having to move a bit like that in animations and things. He comes with his sonic screwdriver. My only gripe is, what the hell did they do to your trousers? Now, you can't really see it on this camera, but his feet and his legs are covered in mud. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Now, why? At what point does the Third Doctor jump into a pile of horse manure and get dirty trousers, legs, and dirty shoes? I can't remember it happening. Obviously, he does tumble a lot in this episode. He's falling on the floor and what have you. But his trousers don't get that dirty, which is the only thing that irks me with this figure. A great figure. I, in fact, was very lucky because I've seen some, and the brown on the trouser legs, I mean, on this camera you can barely see it, which is lovely, really. But it looks worse in real life, and I've seen some people's where it really does look like he's been going through a swamp. So there you are, that is the Third Doctor. I'm not sure what the next review will be. Probably be the San Diego Comic-Con exclusives, whatever they may be. Lots of rumours floating around. When it's announced on Forbidden Planet's website, whatever the release is, that will be the next review. So thank you for watching this review, guys, and I shall see you in the next review, whenever that may be.